Welcome back to the Dan Maskell Tennis Centre here at Loughborough University. Semi-finals day of week 2 of the UK Pro League 2021. We are 2 semi-finals down and we are 2 to go. It was Anton Matusevich who booked his spot in the men's final off first today. He defeated Sean Hodgkin in straight sets. He did have to face a set point but came through 7-5, 6-2, and then, my goodness, Emily Appleton, she really is on a massive winning streak. 13 matches on the trot, booking her place in the final, once again defeating Alice Gillen. Coming up next though, Mark Whitehouse will be up against Dan Cox, who was a semi-finalist in week 1, and then rounding things off, Beth Gray, finalist in week 1, also up against Elise Maloney. Well, with this format, the third set is a championship tiebreak, and let me tell you, so many matches have come down to the wire. Let's hear the players' thoughts on the format.
The Champions tiebreak is a match tiebreak to 10 points, basically. It's played in lieu of a third set, so it's got to win by 2 points, and first person to get to 10 is the winner.
There it is. It is game, set and match for Billy Harris.
In this format with one match every single day, it definitely helps the body if you have to play full third set and then straight back on the next day for 7 days. Your body's going to be pretty ruined by the end of it, so it definitely helps in that sense.
And there it is, Olivia Nichols crosses the finish line. She gets the job done.
Personally, I think it favours the underdog, and also I play a lot of doubles, and the format in doubles is championship tiebreak, so I think I'm used to it.
There are some players who thrive on it, definitely. They like that sudden conclusion. They get pumped up, they know they have to concentrate, mega concentrate in the next 10 minutes, otherwise the match is over.
Adrenaline can definitely carry you throughout that, and I reckon some people could sort of crumble under the pressure of it just being 10 points.
It's almost like a flip of a coin, you know, if you get off to a quick start or a little bit of luck one way, it can make a massive difference. But yeah, makes it exciting to watch though, that's for sure.
The more experienced players know how to play under pressure, and the more tie breaks I play like that, the better I'll do under pressure.
Well, pressure is a privilege, right? That's what Billie Jean King the Great says. It's now time to welcome the men's semi-final match onto the court, starting with Mark Whitehouse. He's 27 years old from Reigate, ranked 628 in the world. Top-ranked player in Group B, was 7th overall in week 1, finished top of his group though in week 2, 3 wins and 2 losses. Very smart guy indeed. Studied maths at university at Imperial College London. Represented Great Britain at University Games as well. His opponent today is the oldest man in the field, incidentally, Dan Cox, 30 years of age. My goodness, he has had a career and a half. It's great to see Dan Cox from Lincoln back here playing 4th overall in week 1, reached the semi-finals, 2nd in his group behind Anton Matusevich earlier on this week. Well, it's great to see, as I said, Dan Cox back playing tennis. What a career indeed he's had. Let's hear from him now.
My name's Daniel Cox and I'm 30 years old. Playing Wimbledon main draw, I think that's probably one of the highlights of my career, and playing all the Grand Slams around the world. I would probably say Kei Nishikori. I played him when I think I must have been about 17, 18. Probably one of the quickest guys on tour. Just couldn't get a ball past him even on grass. Probably Ivo Karlovic, just because the ball rarely comes back when he throws the ball up and it's a serve. So probably somebody like that. Well, I guess probably some sort of fast food takeaway. I mean, I don't really like eating too many fast food things. I just remember one time in Taiwan when I was younger, we had McDonald's for lunch and dinner every day, and I ended up winning the tournament. I guess the least favourite thing is the free time, especially when you're abroad on your own. It's very hard to fill the time, and it can be very lonely. I think just the competitive side of it, really. I just love competing.
Competing indeed, and that is what these guys are about to do here on Court 1 at Dan Maskell Tennis Centre, second semi-final of the day on the men's side of things. Joining me now, Calvin Betton. Calvin, this is quite an incredible matchup. Two really talented guys indeed. How much are you looking forward to this encounter?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a bit different from the first match. We're going to get both these pure ball strikers. I think it's going to come down to who plays their better tennis, bring their A game on the day. I think it's going to need to make many tactical adaptations to how we play. I think it's going to come down to who plays the best game.
Yeah, well, it's just quite an incredible matchup between these two guys. Dan Cox, 14 futures singles titles in his career. He's beaten the likes of David Goffin for trophies back in 2010. We saw there he's also played against the likes of Kei Nishikori. It's quite a fascinating story. His last match since Wimbledon 2017 was only back in the Pro Series last year. He came out of retirement, had some trouble with injuries, and bought a spinning bike during lockdown. He was bored, so used the time to get fit, and then had an unbelievable Pro Series last year. This year, he is still unranked, but he is making a splash here at the Pro League. Second semi-final on the trot for Dan Cox. What has Mark Whitehouse got to do against him, Calvin, to get the better of him?
Mark's really going to want to land the first strike. That's the most important thing. He's not going to want to get involved in long rallies with Dan, because Dan's going to try and move him around. He's never going to let him set. Mark's going to want to set his big sort of wide base and have big swings at the ball, and Dan's going to try and make him do the opposite. He's going to try and move him around, get his all-court game in play.
Well, Mark actually said off-court he's going to channel his inner Anton Matusevich in order to get past Dan Cox. Is that how big he's got to hit the ball? He has a big game himself.
Yeah, Mark hits it really flat and hard, which is a bit different from how all the other guys hit. He probably hits less shape than all the other guys. He's going to hit it, it's going to be a straight line, and he doesn't really need to sort of construct the points too well, Mark. He's got one strike power. He can just out of nowhere, they'll be in a rally, and he can just clobber one and it'd be a win. It's very frustrating for his opponents when that happens.
But someone like Dan Cox, he is a tenacious player, he is a fighter, does not give up. How hungry is he going to be to go one step further this week and get his place in the final?
Oh, absolutely. Dan's an all or nothing player. He's going to come in, there's going to be no let-up whatsoever, and he's going to see, even if he loses in the final tomorrow, he'll see that as a bad week. He only wants first place.
Well, I'm going to ask you one final question. It's a prediction, but you've got to say it quietly because obviously the player's in your bag.
I think it'll be close. I think Mark's stood closest to me, so I'm going to say him.
Went safe, I love it. Well, Calvin, thanks very much for your time. You head over to the commentary box because it will be yourself and Gigi Salmon taking this match away between Mark Whitehouse and Dan Cox for a place in the final.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and it's going to be a fifth meeting between these two. Mark Whitehouse yet to get the better of Dan Cox, and we talked about Dan Cox retiring from tennis in 2017. Mark Whitehouse, 27 years of age, 3 years the junior of Cox, but all their meetings have come in the last year. It was at St George's Hill, it was the Pro Series, 3 meetings on that occasion, and in those 3 meetings, Mark Whitehouse was able to take the 1 set. So there's an awful lot of work to do. You heard Calvin and Jenny talking courtside about what this young man in our picture has to do to try and get the better of Dan Cox. Dan Cox, who was really good through week 1. He finished 4th. This time round, 2nd in box A behind Anton Matusevich with 11 points. And for Mark Whitehouse, topping box B, 10 points. And that's coming from 7th in week 1. So it's showing the development and the change these players can make from one week to another in the UK Pro League. I'm very impressed with Calvin Betton's speed. I know it's not that far, but I thought you'd take a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm out of breath. My asthma's probably not going to work too well after that. But
oh, dearie me. Well, we've kept it close between courtside and into the commentary box, and it is incredible, the story, isn't it, of Dan Cox, how he can retire and it all got a bit too much, and everything that went with tennis. To during lockdown, his wife said, "Why don't you pick up a tennis racket?" and here he is now.
yeah, the competitive fires were always still burning. He always turned up and played a couple of British tours, that kind of thing. And I know he always played French League.
I think he plays at a pretty good level in the French league. So he never actually completely left competitive tennis, but this is the first time he's made a sort of solid move to come back and say, right, this is what I'm doing again for a living. So hopefully he can put it together and have a second career, if you will.
And was able to set up a tennis academy, so in the process being able to help others and hopefully inspire others to take up the sport.
Yeah, and also that once you go into coaching, it can definitely help your actual tennis as well. I know that sometimes when I sort of go into play matches now, I always think about things from a different point of view. Of you look at it more from the player's point of view when you come back from the coaching perspective, and vice versa. Once you get on court, you're thinking what a coach would be saying to you, that kind of thing. So I'm interested to know whether he sort of analyses things differently now. He's done a few years coaching them before he did that, really.
He founded the Lincoln Tennis Academy. He is a fierce competitor, Dan Cox, but Mark Whitehouse looking to get the better of him. He's the taller and the younger, the man in your picture in the red top, 6'2" and 27 to 5'7" and 30. But Dan Cox, the man with the experience, and Mark Whitehouse looking to make his mark and try and settle himself. So important, these first service games, the respective players to look to settle themselves, with Anton Matusevich awaiting the winner in the final. How much do head-to-heads bother players?
It can be a factor. I think there's always little caveats as well, like sort of last week. I was saying to somebody backstage earlier on, I wouldn't read too much into Mark's performance last week. He had jet lag, he'd just come back from America and he'd only been back in the country, I think, 12 hours before he played his first match. So I think that I'd say that if you've got such a big lead as Dan has over Mark, where it's 4-0, then it becomes an issue, especially seeing as they're all pretty recent as well, so they're going to live long in the memory. What I'd say on the other side of that is, knowing Mark as I do, he doesn't let things like that bother him, so it'll give Dan a bit more confidence, but I don't think it will bother Mark too much. Mark's going to come out and he's going to swing, he's going to hit his big balls regardless, so I don't think on that side it affects him.
Oh, that's a lovely point.
Yeah, lovely touch. Two great touches there. The one thing I'd say on the head-to-head, Gigi, is that if a player's got a big lead like Dan has over Mark, I think it's really important for Mark to get a good start. If he falls behind early, then you can start sort of losing the will for it, really. So it's important that Mark is at least level, I would say, after 4 or 5 games here. You can see early doors that Dan's looking to take advantage of that second serve.
Yeah, now just putting some early pressure in this first game, which, as Calvin said, it's so important. Mark Whitehouse trailing on the head-to-head to hold service this first game of this semi-final, but pressure, a little bit more pressure applied now.
Two different characters, these guys, as well. Dan's quite a very intense, sort of very focused, and Mark is very really laid back and sort of hard to get a reading from him on court ever, really.
I think that can sometimes work to your advantage if someone looks so relaxed and are they annoyed, are they happy, are they sad? Because with Dan Cox, you feel that you live most points with him.
Mark's the opposite. I know a few of the guys who've played against Mark, they find it quite frustrating that he never seems affected by anything on the court. Even if he'll sort of serve 3 double faults in a row and he doesn't ever seem that bothered about it. And that's when I think last week I really noticed that the jet lag taking effect. He was banging his racket a bit and I thought that's not really like Mark at all. So, but yeah, he's so chilled out and calm, and it's so difficult when you're playing against him when in a close match when you're not getting anything from him at all in terms of emotional reaction.
You get quite a lot from this man here.
Yeah, he's so intense, so fired up all the time.
But Mark Whitehouse did what he had to do. He held his first service game as the hunt for balls goes on. I think we've gathered the 4.
Something else interesting is that Mark's actually playing with a new racket this year as well. He's changed his racket, which you don't often get with players at this level. He's gone over to Dunlop. I think he was a head player before that, so it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the new equipment.
Because that is such a big thing to change rackets.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, because that's your work tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess these days there's not as much difference between the different brands as there was previously. Each brand has their own version of another brand's racket, so it's not like he's completely changing to a different type. He'll have the same type of racket, but there definitely will be differences from what he was playing with last year.
What would be the main reason why you would look to change your racket so far into your career?
I don't know in Mark's case, but generally I think he's wearing the whole kit as well, so I think he's probably got a deal with Dunlop, some sort of sponsorship deal, and maybe the other company weren't willing to give that, and I don't think he would have changed just for that reason, but he's probably tried the racket and figured he quite likes it, so why not? There's a lot of fluorescent yellow in the men's matches today, isn't there? On there.
Do you like fluorescent yellow?
Well, the gear that Anton had on previously, I was saying to Abigail, when I was about 12, I used to have that Agassi kit when it was first out. And
Did you have the hair or a little?
I had more hair than I have now. Yeah, so it's interesting to see it come back. But they brought back all that night kit, the Agassi kit, but they didn't bring back the trainers, and the trainers were the ones I really wanted. I loved those trainers that Agassi used to wear, but they didn't bring them back.
It's amazing how things come back around and become back in fashion.
Yeah. I think Shapovalov was actually going for the full Agassi kit at the US Open last year. He went for the full 1990 Agassi gear, so... This is one of the difficulties that you get when playing Mark sometimes as well, is that you notice the previous point there, he just hit a return about 3 meters long, is that some of the guys feel you just get no rhythm against him because he's either hitting a winner or he's missing, so it's difficult to get in any sort of constant feel for the ball. I think he'll be wanting to keep the rally short here. Dan's probably going to be happier if they're longer. It's smart from Dan there. When you get a player like Mark who really wants to set himself and hit big balls, the objective is always to keep them on the run, because what you'll find is that they don't hold back when they're on the run, but they're more likely to miss when they're on the run. That those big shots are always better if the player can set his feet and really have a good swing at it.
Big with the second serve.
Yeah, I think he knows he's going to have to. Mark's definitely going to. He's not going to hold back if there's a half chance. We saw in the first men's semis there, Sean was Sean Hodkin's probably not going to be happy about how he dealt with the half chances he got. We're not going to have that problem with Mark Whitehouse today. A quarter chance, and he's going to unload. Shot. And I think that sort of testifies itself in Mark's career trajectory. If you look at his ranking, he's not got to that ranking through sort of consistently making quarterfinals, second round quarterfinals. He'll have sort of 6 first rounds in a row and then win 2 tournaments, and then lose first round and then make a final. That's where he gets his points. He's a streaky player. There's no question about it.
Dan Cox gets on the board. Yep, and Mark Whitehouse, a ranking of 628 right now, but has been to a career high of 530 for Dan Cox back in 2014, a career high of 206. And just listening to him pre-match talking about the players that he's played against, saying, "Oh yeah, I played Kei Nishikori, couldn't get near it." I mean, it's been a great career that Cox has had to this point.
Yeah, fair play to him that he's managing to sort of come out here on a Saturday afternoon with no fans. Some players will lose motivation, but the thing with Dan is he's just a competitor. He's a born competitor. It doesn't matter if he's at Wimbledon or if he's at Loughborough Tennis Centre. He's going to compete the same.
And I feel whether it's tennis or tiddlywinks, he'd be as competitive.
Absolutely, yeah. Very intense guy.
I saw him after his defeat last week, and he came off into the sort of area just where we're based and just sort of threw the bag down, threw the racket down, and just really frustrated in himself.
It's always so difficult as well to get a game plan against Mark. I know players who I've coached have played against him with sort of mixed success. It's basically, you can say little things what you want them to do, but it's basically going to come down to whether Mark makes the shots that he's going to go for or whether he doesn't. If he makes them, it's going to be tough for anybody to beat him.
And is it about being able to adapt as well because of the streakiness?
Yeah, absolutely, and the ability, it's about being able to accept that it's going to happen. But it's got to accept that you can be at love 30 up, and he's just going to hit 4 winners in a row, and you won't have done anything wrong, but you've lost the game. Or equally, you can be at 30 love up on your serve, and he'll just hit 4 return winners. And just sort of being able to accept and go, right, okay, let's see if you can keep doing that point after point, game after game. He's had a big turnaround this week as well, and I think he had a slow start to the week, and then he's really come good in the last few days to bring himself in.
Yeah, lost his first match to Sean Hodkin, then got a win against Oscar White, then another defeat, and then wins. Oof.
Yeah, he's going to have to do more with his approaches than that. It's way too central.
It was a win on day 5 against Harry Wendelken that secured his place with 10 points to top. You were talking about box B. It was sort of all over the place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so strange. I think Johnny Gray was telling me earlier that if he'd have won a set yesterday, then he'd have qualified for the semis, and he's ended up in next to last place instead. So.
I feel sorry for the people doing the maths and figuring it all out.
Yeah,
I just want someone to tell me.
Yeah. I was sat watching it yesterday thinking, right, who can go through here? And I think the guys from Group A as well would have been happy to see Jack Findle-Hawkins not coming through, because he had a slow start to the week but was really hitting form later on, and on a fast indoor court nobody wants to be playing Jack Findle-Hawkins. Great return. Really timed that well as well. It's tough to time that inside in, inside out backhand return as cleanly as Coxey does, but he's such a clean ball striker. He might not be as big a unit as some of the other guys we're seeing today, but once he gets it off the middle of the racket, it comes up at just the same pace.
An opportunity to get the early break for Dan Cox.
I think Dan's the player as well who questions more calls than anybody else. Anything that's within a foot of the line is definitely in his favour.
It's all been quite harmonious in terms of calling their own lines.
Yeah, yeah. There was one yesterday, I think, on court 2 with Oscar Waitman and Sean Hodkin. They had a bit of a row in the tie-break. I think it might have been at 8-all in the tie-break. Got a bit tasty there.
Well, the way that group was going, every point mattered.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really important for Mark to get out of this game now. He really does. You see a little bit of frustration creeping into his facial expressions. And Coxey will be more than aware of that as well. He's always keeping an eye out what's going on at the other side. Another difficulty with Mark is there's not a great deal of difference between his first and second serve. Sometimes he goes big on both, sometimes he rolls both in. It's just so hard to get a reading on. He times that return so well.
He got a perfect reading on that serve. Second opportunity to try and get the break. Third of the 4 semi-finals that we have for you still to come. Beth Gray against Elise Maloney. A serve like that.
He's served well on the break points, hasn't he? On the big points as well. Especially with Dan's limited reach. It's great. It's a great serve, that one. It swings away from him. Dan's really frustrated at that one. He knows he's not going to be able to make the first error in any of the points. He's going to want to be the consistent player here. It's a really good return as well.
That's a really good hold for Mark Whitehouse. A couple of break points he had to save. He does so on serve early stages. Whitehouse leading Cox by 2-1. It's lovely to have your company at the Dan Maskell Tennis Centre at Loughborough University. Business end of week 2 of the UK Pro League. We've got 8 weeks of round-robin matches culminating in a finals week in November. What is Dan Cox like off the court? Because the intensity is quite frightening at times. Is this character quite similar off the court, or is he completely laid back?
I don't know him that well, sort of personally. I've been sort of around him at tournaments and that kind of thing, but I know the guys who know him get on with him well, so I assume he's not as intense off court as he is on the court. I know he likes his cards and that kind of thing. A few questions being asked about line calls already here. Dan's one of those players who'll question everyone else's line call, but he's disgusted if anyone ever questions his own. I don't quite know what the discussion was there.
I like the little sage nod from the chair.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit distracted because it was going along so comfortably for Cox.
I think they're the type of shots that Dan will be most frustrated with, in that when you've played at the level that he has, you're used to a certain standard, and that standard is not missing balls like that. So I think those will be the things he finds most frustrating, that he knows he can make those balls, not the balls that he misses that he doesn't think he can make. You see definitely some frustration creeping in there in Cox. Oh, see there, we see what Whitehouse can do. Two huge blows.
And he's taken advantage of the frustration that we can clearly see from Cox, who looked comfortably in control at 40 love. A little discussion with his opponent, a little discussion with the chair. Into the net it goes, kicking the ball away with his foot, and now we find ourselves at deuce.
If you can do damage with cross-court backhands like Mark can, it's a real weapon, because it's not an easy shot to cause damage with. Sort of the backhand cross-court tends to be a sort of rally ball, keeping your opponent at a neutral position, but Mark can just let go on it, and it really, really does open the court when that happens. He can do line as well. He can attack. He attacks really well off both wings.
It's even quite intense how he bounces the ball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some clean striking of the ball from Mark Whitehouse.
Ball striking. As I was saying to Jenny as well before we came on, that Mark's a bit different. His ball comes through different than the other guys because it's so flat. There's not as much shape on it as there is with any of the other players that we're getting here this week. Sort of almost, I always think if you could get a sort of camera on the ball, it just goes through with no rotations on it at all. Especially on a fast indoor court, that's even more difficult. He's really frustrated at that one. Backhand cross again.
It does come so cleanly off his racket.
Yeah, it's almost carefree as well. He doesn't mind swinging at it, and I think he's sort of quite comfortable. He's very intelligent, Mark, and he's kind of accepted that he's going to miss 20 balls a set, and it doesn't bother him up to that point. Didn't quite get that one clean though. I imagine he's a tough ride home, Dan Cox, after he's lost the match. He wouldn't want to be sharing a car.
Yeah, I was going to say I might take a separate car.
Yeah.
Well, he got himself into a little bit of a tangle, so I think he'll be happy, Dan Cox, to have got himself out of that fourth game.
Yeah, it's an interesting match so far, isn't it? We've had a couple of pretty easy service games, a couple of tough ones for both players. Because the balls get older as well, we'd probably like to see less free points on the serve. That's probably why Dan is battering them into the ground so hard, to try and soften the balls up a bit.
Mentioned that he studied maths at Imperial College. He also can walk on his hands.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He's a phenomenally intelligent lad, is Mark Whitehouse.
And a very good gymnast.
Really?
Yes.
He's a big guy for a gymnast, isn't he?
It's what, 6 foot? Imagine 6'2". How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot.
Could you imagine walking on your hands?
No.
No. And he can do that at 6'2".
I mean, Mike's a lot bigger built than I am as well.
I'm just trying to imagine it now. Just. Opportunity here for Cox now. Love 30. But what does he get off the second serve of Whitehouse?
Oh, it's huge tennis. 4 really big strikes of the ball there, and Cox's return actually wasn't bad. But that's the problem that you get with Mark. You feel like you're on the defence a lot of the time. He can do that off both wings as well, as we've seen. Yeah, Dan will be really frustrated at that, because I think Mark's his sort of main weakness would be his volleys, I would say. Not that I wouldn't say it's a weakness. He's not the best volleyer here this week, though. So, and Dan had a little shot at that. He'd have liked to have seen him play a volley, I would think. Came in on a bit of a bluff there, Mark, didn't he? There wasn't much on it. Mark's one of the guys actually who around the futures circuit, you don't see him play a whole lot of doubles. Most of the guys at that level will play singles and doubles, but I don't think Mark's really too much into his doubles. He plays occasionally, but not all that regularly. It's a great return again. See, he's really stepping into it. He really likes that inside-out backhand return. hell of a serve.
And again, he's been so good. And those break points.
Yeah, he's made the first serves, made them well. Frustration again there from Dan. He's mad that he got aced. Not much he can do about that. Interesting to see what Mark does here. He's been a bit short on his second serves the last few times, really allowing Dan to step in. I think he's probably going to have to push this one through a bit harder to keep him off him. Yeah, it's a better second serve. Got an extra 12 inches deeper into the service box there, and Dan got the return a bit later. Nothing in this match so far, is there?
Very close between these two. The fifth meeting between these two.
Great serve again.
Again, when he's needed it, he's pulled out the big serves. Mark Whitehouse. So tight between these two for the right to face Anton Matusevich in the final. It's on serve 3-2 Whitehouse. Mark Whitehouse in your picture, holding on serve, came through first in Box B with 10 points. Those 2 defeats, 3 victories, 7th in week 1. But as Calvin said, he was playing off the back of jet lag, which must be pretty horrendous. But he's settled himself. He's had a week following week 1, and now he's got himself through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, he's definitely looked more like himself in the last couple of days, especially from what I've seen. Not sure how clean he got that smash, but it did the job.
It didn't sound the cleanest.
No. What you find in this level of tennis especially is the player that lands the ball within, say, 20 inches of the line, the sideline first, becomes huge favourite in the point, and they'll always be looking to win it. And as we see there, Dan, once he's landed that first forehand, he's well on top of the point, and it's just who can take advantage the most of getting that first ball near a sideline.
Does it surprise you that he doesn't play more doubles, Mark Whitehouse? Because a lot of time people, if we look at the main ATP tour, coaches will encourage players to play doubles, to work on net play and coming forward.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. I mean, he occasionally pops up on a doubles court and that kind of thing. I guess at this age, yeah, going back to that, he occasionally plays doubles, but I think he'd probably get a bit more net play if he did that, more time to practice his volleys. Although men's doubles now is moving away from that sort of all 4 players at the net. I'd seen last week there was a stat that now 55% of male players are serving and staying back in the doubles court. So it's a real big turn from 5 or 6 years ago when I'd say it was probably about 80% was serve and volleying.
I'll be happier than with his previous service hold, Dan Cox, holding to 15 to level things up, and that intensity as he gets rid of the balls down the other end.
The big 7th game now.
In commentary, we talk a lot about the all-important 7th game. As a coach, how much weight do you put on it with your players, the 7th game?
Never. It's just a myth. The game that you're playing is the biggest game, I think. That's the. If someone wins the 7th game, then the 8th game becomes the biggest game, and it's not something I've ever spoke about, really. I think in this type of situation, when it's 3-all, then and when the service games have been so tight, then it does become it, because I think that you feel like there's a break on one way or another sometime soon. Oh, that's huge. He's 6 foot behind the baseline there and hit a clean winner from the middle of the court. He didn't have any angle to work with or anything. You can only do that if you hit the ball as flat as Mark does. But again, as I was saying earlier, he's managed to set himself there. He's not on the run when he hits that. Dan really getting on top of the second serve there. Again, Mark dropping length on it a little bit. He's going to want to. He's either going to want to increase his first serve percentage, I think, or get a little bit more on his second serve. Dan's getting a bit comfortable on returning those now. He's not wrong.
There's the analysis.
Yeah, he's not wrong. But again, Dan winning the point when he's managing to move Mark around the court. You feel if Mark can stand in the middle of the court and club away, he's going to be favourite. But once Dan gets him on the run, there's a big change.
4th breakpoint opportunity of the match for Dan Cox. Hasn't been able to convert one to this point. Another opportunity here.
First one on a second serve, I think, now. Ooh, missed that by a while. That's the pressure that Dan's been putting on, though. Mark would know that Dan was coming at him.
And there is the break. It was an all-important 7th game in the end, and it goes the way of Dan Cox. 4-3 with the break. So for the first time in this semi-final, Dan Cox has the lead, breaking the 7th game to lead by 4 games to 3. Finished 4th in week 1.
Huge blows again from Mark Whitehouse.
Oh, it's the perfect way to describe them. They are blows.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say on that is you feel that there's basically 3 ways to win a tennis point. You can hit a winner, you can force your opponent into an error, or you can wait for an opponent to make an error. You get the feeling that Mark only has one at the minute. He's got to hit a winner or force his opponent maybe into an error, but he's not going to get enough errors from Dan Cox to win this match. Whereas Dan probably has more ways he can hit winners himself, and he can wait for Mark's errors.
Well, he's got an error there, and he's opened up a love 30 lead in this 8th game.
It looked like he was pressing a bit extra there, which Dan doesn't really need to do. He's such a beautiful striker of the ball, such a clean ball striker. He doesn't need to be sort of trying to muscle balls, and definitely tried to put a bit extra onto that one and caused him to pull it down a little bit.
Just looks thoroughly annoyed, doesn't he?
Always. I think even when he hits a winner, he's annoyed that it wasn't a winner that's clean enough. But errors will kill him. He'll be furious that he's made unforced errors. And another one as well. You can see how furious he is with himself there.
Well, from not having offered up any break points so far and having just got the break, he's now love 40 down.
And again, I think that's the frustration, having come back from being a player in the top 250. He will find that just so annoying. The top 250 players don't make 2 errors in a row like that. And he'll know that. And another. That was such a strange shot as well. That's not a shot that you'd expect from an experienced player like Dan Cox.
Seemed to go for the spectacular.
Yeah, there's no need for it either, was there? He was on top in the point, I think.
And he's been broken to love, and we are back on serve. And Mark Whitehouse is probably as surprised as the rest of us.
He didn't really have to do much for that break. He played one good point, didn't he? Landed that huge blow in the first point, but after that he didn't really have to do much at all. And again, Mark Whitehouse's demeanour doesn't change one bit from losing serve to breaking back. But that's what I was talking about. After a lot of players, once they've lost serve, they can be frustrated and just give a game back, whereas Mark he's just on an even keel all the time. That's four unforced errors in a row from Dan Cox. I'd be surprised if he's done 4 in the whole match before those. I'm not sure he got that one all that clean, to be honest. I think got a bit of racket on it. I think Mark thought he was going wide.
Well, interesting times in this first set, a break apiece. Cox handing the break back to Whitehouse.
Wow. I think Dan was trying to claim that the serve was wide, but he didn't play it like it was wide. Oh, it's a hell of a shot. You can play those shots really well where you think you've got him out of the point. And he just sort of does this hook. He's a deceptively decent mover, is Mark Whitehouse. You think that if you can get him on the run, you've got him, but it's not necessarily the case.
Wow, what a turnaround we have here. From being broken, he then breaks back to love, and then he holds serve Calvin fairly comfortably. And this is why Dan Cox is standing there with hand on hips.
Yeah, I think he's frustrated. He thinks that that ball was in as well. I think he thinks that Mark's pulled one on him there, but it looked wide from when he hit the return. I think from here it definitely looked wide. But yeah, he's. But again, that's what I was saying about Mark Whitehouse. He can go from a breakdown to then breaking and holding serve for the loss of just 1 point, and it's so frustrating to play against. You don't ever feel like you've got any rhythm within the match, either within the points what he's giving you, because he's either missing or hitting winners, or in the match as a whole, because you're not getting anything from him from the other side. You'd think that his head would be down a little bit there, but it wasn't at all. He just came back, and I don't know whether that's to do with he sort of had quite a decent life outside of tennis. He's obviously done his degree at was it Imperial where he went, sort of just a very sort of level-headed, intelligent guy, and it just always feels like there's more to life than tennis for Mark Whitehouse, and I think that can maybe sort of be some of the reason why he doesn't press on some of the time, maybe, but it's also probably a good place to be from a life perspective, I guess.
And that was a big thing for Dan Cox, wasn't it, when he retired from tennis, because he couldn't handle everything that went with the losing, the frustration. Yeah. He had a new life. He got married, he set up his tennis academy and had a, shall we call it, a normal life.
Yeah, there's a lot of time to fill, yeah. It's becoming a really big game now, this one. If you'd have told me that one of the players would be making 5 unforced errors in 7 points, I think I'd have said it would be Mark Whitehouse, not Dan Cox. Needed that serve, though, to get him out of a little bit of trouble. I think the umpire just overruled Mark there, but I don't think Mark was entirely sure. He's just asking somebody on the balcony how they saw it. He's one of the fairest players you could ever come across.
I think he's asking our colleague Abigail Johnson
Was he?
how she saw it.
Another unforced error from Dan Cox. He's going to be livid. I think he's a ticking time bomb at the minute.
It really came out of nowhere, having just got the break.
Yeah. He's almost playing Mark Whitehouse tennis at the minute. He's sort of hitting big serve aces and following up with unforced errors.
An opportunity here for Mark Whitehouse. 5-4 up on serve, but now the door opening at 15:30.
Wasn't far. That first net cord, that's the thing with Mark Whitehouse. He seems to get more net cords than any other players because he hits it that hard, and if it hits the top of the net, it just goes over anyway. There was once a practice session with a player I coached, and he must have hit 12 net cords in 2 hours. It was so frustrating for the other lad.
I just heard him say you can't change your mind.
Yeah, I think he was definitely eyeing up the forehand up the line there. He saw a bit of a half chance. Better point from Dan Cox there, though. He soaked up the power a lot more and made Mark play an extra ball every time. Mark was definitely hunting there. Yeah, you're not going to get away with that approach against Dan Cox.
Looked fairly hesitant as he made his way forward. The gap was spotted by Cox. He gets the ball past him and he settles himself down because he's held serve for 5-all, a much needed hold for Cox, which, as I say, might just settle him back into this first set.
Yeah, that'd be the kind of... Mark will be a bit disappointed there, I think, at 30-all, 15-30, I think he was sniffing a chance and really didn't play a good point after that. Bit of a roller coaster this set.
Yeah, 46 minutes played to this point. A break apiece. Still anyone's to win. But there's that all-important first point of the game going against the serve.
Yeah, you can tell that Dan has got in Mark's head a bit on the second serve returns. He's hit a few winners off them. He's definitely going after them. And Mark's not silly. He knows that's happening, so he's going for a little bit more. Missed that one as well, I think. He swings again. Gonna sniff at that one as well, didn't he? Got a racket on it. I think Cox will be pretty mad that he didn't make Mark do something there. It wasn't a huge serve. It was pretty well placed, but it didn't have a whole lot of power on it. That is a huge serve, though, and did have a lot of power on it. And was well placed.
That had everything, and it was needed. Yeah. So from love 30 to 30-all.
I mean, that one went over Dan Cox's racket. It wasn't even wide of him. It was so hard that got it past him before the racket went back. Big point here. Huge point. That backhand cross court again, and that's the power that Mark has in it. Because that, if you see a replay of that one, it wasn't that close to the line, but the brutal power of it means it's taking Cox out of the point. Most players would need to get that ball closer to the line to really end the point on it. If anybody's watched any sort of tennis recently and seen Aslan Karatsev play, Mark Whitehouse is kind of like a British version of Karatsev in the way that he plays. It's sort of not much emotion coming from him and just leathers the ball, which is what Karatsev's doing. They're the same year as well, actually, the same age.
And I'm just seeing in the final in Dubai where we've got Lloyd Harris, the qualifier, against Aslan Karatsev, the wild card. Karatsev is 2 games away from winning his first ATP 500 title.
It's just been a phenomenal year. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. What Karatsev's putting together from November last year, I think he was about 270 in the world or something.
But how does that suddenly happen? How does it suddenly, semi-finals, how does it suddenly come together? He's never been a bad player, but he's never been anywhere near. How does that happen with a player?
I think it's sort of quite, there's a bit of coincidence the way that he plays, a little bit of sort of, it's a perfect storm really, in that he's always been that type of player that he can come and he hits the ball so hard and so clean. And then he ran into a bit of form at the end of last year. He then qualified for the Australian Open, and I know that a couple of friends of mine had a sort of prediction thing as to which qualifiers had the best draw, and a few of them picked out Karatsev as the draw had opened up for him in his half of the draw. So he sort of did well to get through those matches then, made the semi-finals, and he's just riding on confidence now. He's semi-finals of the Australian Open, and then since then he's just riding it really, and he's legitimate, one of the top 20 players in the world this year. But I don't think anything different's happened. He's still doing the exact same things that he was doing in November, just doing them a little bit better.
But it's life-changing what he has now achieved, the doors that will open to him straight into Masters events. He can plan his schedule. I mean, reaching the semi-finals in Australia was more prize money than he'd earned in his whole career.
Yeah, it's huge. I know one of the lads who I coached played against him in the World Student Games. Actually, Luke Johnson and Jack Findle-Hawkins played against Karatsev in the final of the World Student Games. And I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago they lost. I think it was 14-12 in the final of the doubles in the gold medal match. And then Luke was saying that he played against him in singles, and Karatsev was, I think, 6-3, 5-4 up to serve, and they had a rain break. And I'll watch this point and then I'll come back to that. Good point. Yeah, he was 6-3, 5-4 and had a rain break with Karatsev to serve for the match, and Luke had gone through a sort of 20 or 25 minute warm-up, getting himself pumped up to come back on the court and try and break him, because it's always tough to hold serve when you've just come back out. So really put himself through an intense warm-up, and then Karatsev went ace, ace, service winner, ace. So he hit one ball after that 25 minute warm-up.
And after 55 minutes, this first set will be decided on a tiebreak. It's had its twists and turns. They both had the lead. They both had the momentum. But it now comes down to the tiebreak.
It's such a strange set, hasn't it? Every service game seems to have been to either love on 15 or 7 deuces. There's nothing in it at all. You really find it tough to call this tiebreak. He's missed that. He really should have made that volley on his racket.
Fifth meeting between the two. Whitehouse yet to beat Cox. They did go the distance on Monday of week 1. I mean, that feels like a lifetime ago already. But that was their most recent meeting until today. And it's Cox with the early advantage.
Dan Cox doesn't miss many of those sort of mid to short court balls. He's very clinical on them. Like a really good penalty taker at football. Picks his side and hits it well into that corner. You see him always looking over at the other side of the court to see what's going on. Matt needs a couple of points here. I think Dan's called that pretty well there, hasn't he?
I love the commentary we've been getting from both of these players.
Lead goes away pretty quick, doesn't it, in these tie breaks? 3-love comfortable to 3-2. Pressure's back on Cox.
He's been pretty good under pressure, Mark Whitehouse, when he's needed to be, but it's still advantage to Dan Cox, eldest player in the tournament at the age of 30.
He's not happy with his shot choice there.
He just says everything for us, doesn't
Yeah. Yeah, he had a half chance there. He'd want to have made that pass. The second shot was a tough one. The first one he'd really want to have done more than make Dan play a sort of semi-comfortable volley. It's extra pressure with these tournaments as well. You've got to remember, I think something that goes unsaid is that the prize money on offer here this week is bigger than anything that they'll play for in a futures tournament.
Yeah, the winner will get $3,750, and then there's the £500 appearance fee.
Yeah, it's almost double what you'd get for winning a futures.
Runner-up, £3,000, and you add on the appearance fee, and for third and fourth place, £2,500 and then £2,000.
Mark's not going to be happy with those 2 service points from Dan Cox. He had chances as well in both. It wasn't like Dan played really well in them. Mike had a hit on 2 balls there and didn't make either of them. Wow. Wow. He's hit that like a rocket, and he's also broken the sideline as well. Which, when I say that, I mean he's bisected the sideline before the baseline, which if you can do that with pace, then the ball isn't coming back.
And that was stunning from Mark Whitehouse.
Kept himself in the game there. Just the one mini break in this tie break so far on the first point of the breaker, yeah. You don't see that very often. So there's either going to be another one or Dan Cox is going to be a set-up. He's missed it. I thought for a minute that Mark hadn't called that, but he had his finger out. For any viewers who don't know, the players tend not to call balls. They stick their fingers out, and that's just the way that they do it. So. Oh, he's missed another one as well.
He's missed it, and it means that Mark Whitehouse, after an hour of this first set, has the first set point, and it's on the Whitehouse serve. Topsy-turvy nature of this first set.
Went after it there. Cox is going to be all over this second serve. He's got lucky on the net cord as well.
You had a feeling it wasn't going to be a straightforward finish to this set.
No. Again, one of those mid-court balls that Dan Cox just doesn't miss once he's got a sniff of it. Since I said that there's only been one mini break, there's not been a single hold of service point.
It's the curse of the commentator.
Yeah.
So we've had a set point for Mark Whitehouse on his serve. Now 6 points apiece. Another point of the 2 at this stage for Whitehouse to serve. Dan Cox in your picture.
Just long, I think. And a huge backhand cross court from Mark Whitehouse there. Dan would have been pretty happy with that return. Got it deep. Good ball strike, but that's what Whitehouse can do. He can just take the game away from you when you think you're playing some decent tennis. Makes your game style almost irrelevant with what he can do, and it can be disheartening for opponents. I don't think he'll dishearten Dan Cox. I don't think anything does. But
second set point opportunity for Whitehouse now, but this time it's on the serve of Dan Cox.
He's missed it as well.
He's missed it, and there's the first set. It's taken over an hour between these two. It's been nip and tuck the whole way through. That's the racket of Cox, but it's Mark Whitehouse who takes the set on the tiebreak. Hello, Mark. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can. We're just in the break. We'll probably come to you, if that's all right, with a couple of questions in about 20 seconds.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm delighted to say that the winner of the first set, Mark Whitehouse, joins us now, winning it on the tiebreak. Congratulations, Mark. It was, well, talk us through that first set. It was so tight between the two of you right till the very last.
Yeah, it was pretty tight either way, and just kept fighting as much as I could because, well, obviously he got that early break, so I knew I needed to come back. And yeah, we had lots of close games, juice games, and yes, a bit lucky. Could have gone either way.
Hi, Mark. It's Calvin.
Hi.
Mark, just a quick one for you. Anything that one thing that you're really happy with that you've done in that set, and one thing that you'd like to do a little bit better?
I was happy I just stayed with it mentally. Could have easily got down on myself when I got broken, and just like to stay that way. I mean, obviously, I would like to not make any errors, but every tennis player would like that, wouldn't they?
Indeed they would.
That would be perfect. Mark, thank you very much. Good luck with the rest of the match.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be the dream of a tennis player, just not to make any errors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's well, if he does that, then he wins the match. He wins the set 6-love if he doesn't make any errors, because we know he's definitely going to hit some winners. Be a big test for Dan now.
What does Dan have to do differently, if anything? Because it was so tight between the two. So is there anything that either of them have to do differently?
I think for Dan, it was that spell he had of sort of, he was just hitting unforced errors, which he doesn't normally do. It was really strange for his game style. I don't think there's anything wrong with his tactics about how he's approaching it. They're both playing pretty smart, and we thought it'd be close. But Dan had a sort of 10-minute spell where he just couldn't put the ball in the court when he was up in the match. I think he was that when he was 4-2, 4-3?
The 8th game when he was broken to love and almost gifted the break back.
Yeah, and then that continued into Mark's next game as well. So Mark had a spell where he didn't have to hit any winners. Ooh, he's trying something new there. He's laughing at himself, and I don't think he expected that. Still see a little bit of frustration in there in Dan Cox, who's snatching at that one. When Dan's at his best, he doesn't miss those balls.
Yeah, he needs to get himself out of this pretty quickly.
Really good deep return that from Mark. Of course, we get into the stage now as well where fatigue starts to hit in, because with these guys when they play futures it's a 32 draw, so the most matches that you'll ever play in a week is 5 matches, unless you have to qualify, but most of these guys don't have to qualify. Dan probably does it with his current ranking, but he wouldn't be used to doing it. So you're now into being that this is the 6th match and tomorrow's the 7th, you're going beyond what you would normally expect to play for these guys. You'd also usually get a day off as well in the middle of that, those 5 matches. Seems strange to say, but it's probably quite a big game, this one, because Dan's frustrated. If Mark can get a break here, it'd be big for him, and if Dan can get away with it, he'll probably think he's stolen one there. It's a great pass. It was a really good first volley as well. Maybe just didn't do quite enough with it, but I'm not sure what else he could have done.
Mark Whitehouse looking to continue on that momentum from taking the first set. He's the British number 18. He's the 2nd highest ranked player here behind Anton Matusevich, who booked his place a little bit earlier against Sean Hodgkin in tomorrow's final. Got a break point early stages first set.
Was he made that? I just missed it. Just missed it. That would have been a killer blow for Dan Cox if that one had gone in.
I'm just seeing that Aslan Karatsev is the Dubai 500 winner. The wildcard beating qualifier Lloyd Harris 6-3, 6-2.
It's just a phenomenal story. Oh, he's made that as well, I think. No, he's just missed it.
He was 253 in the world, Aslan Karatsev, in August last year. And now with the title, he's the world number 27.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. Basically in 6 months, that is, isn't it? Can't have been many faster climbs than that. Probably worth mentioning that Dan Evans has had a couple of rough draws so far. He played Federer last week, and then this week he played Karatsev first round, and it was pretty close to beat. That was a really close match, that one. Dan's playing some pretty good tennis, but he's going to feel like he's not playing great after those 2 losses. But I think Federer only lost to Basilashvili, who ended up winning last week as well.
Basilashvili hadn't been beaten anyone in the last 6 months or so. It's amazing. It's the momentum in tennis.
Oh, hugely so. Back at deuce. Seems like every service game's a deuce now. There really is nothing in it, because if you think about it as well, the way that these matches are set up with the championship tiebreak, is that Dan's probably, he's closer now to winning the match than he was at the start of the match, even though he's lost a set. At the start of the match, he needed to win 2 sets, and now he needs to win a set and a tiebreak. So,
and I guess that's the mindset he has
absolutely,
to keep.
Yeah. It's in these sort of matches, I was talking with Mark just before we came out, and he said, he was talking about when he played Jack Findle-Hawkins earlier in the week, and Mark felt that he was the better player for about 90% of the match, and Jack suddenly strung together 10 minutes of lights-out tennis, and he's won the match against him. And so he's always going to hold serve pretty easy, Jack Findle-Hawkins, and so he was holding serve, got it to sort of Mark won the first set 6-4, and I think it was about 4-all, 5-all in the second set, and then Jack strung together about 7 or 8 winners, and suddenly he's 8-2 up in the tiebreak or something, and the match is gone, and you've been the better player for 85% of it.
Looking at the stats from the first set, they were so level for so long.
Yeah. An 81% first serve for Dan Cox there as well. That's a high percentage. Didn't do enough with the volley again there. I think I saw there as well that Mark's down at 31% points won on second serve, and that's a hugely important stat. He'll have to get better at that, I would think, if he's going to close this match out. Chance to do so here.
Yeah, he took up a very aggressive stance, didn't he, Cox, on the second serve? I sometimes think when they're having to gather the balls together, it's not such a bad thing. They can just have a little bit of time to reset and to think, because at love 30, it's a big point coming up.
And again, though, for these guys, that's nothing strange, because that's what they will do in their futures tournaments. Occasionally, some of the finals will have ball kids, but not all of them, and everything except for the final, they get in their own balls, and often having to climb fences to get them and stuff. Big backhand again there. And there's really some great ball striking in this match. When you look at these players and you wonder what the difference is between the guys at this sort of level, this sort of ranking, and the guys who are somewhere between 250 and above, it really, it's not the top level. The top level, there's nothing in it. It's their mid and bottom levels that's different. That the guys at 250, the guys at 200 can have off days, and their off days are better than the off days that what we're seeing Mark Whitehouse and Dan Cox having at the minute. But if you're looking at the best level that they can play, there's nothing in it. There's no one at 250, 200 in the world who's hitting better shots than Mark Whitehouse, if that makes sense, than Mark's doing at the minute. And certainly what Anton Matusevich was bringing earlier, that was top 150 level ball striking from Anton. That's sort of that game there is what we were talking about earlier with Mark Whitehouse, that Dan Cox was love 30 up, having a sniff of a chance, and Mark's just come and hit three or four huge shots, and Dan hasn't done anything wrong, and 60 seconds later we're back at 1-all. You can take the game away from you.
It's so big and it's so flat.
Yeah, and I think what you saw there as well was the second shot of that Dan Cox has third ball there, the first shot he played after the serve, he had one of those backhands cross court that Mark Whitehouse has been crushing. And normal players don't have the ability to do what Mark's doing and just crush a backhand win across court. There's not that Dan did anything wrong there, it's that what Mark's doing is phenomenal at the minute. What was great from Dan Cox in that point there was not just the get, which was fantastic, but his recovery into the court. It gave Mark nothing to aim at. He was already back in the middle of the court, which closed down the margins from what Mark could go for. So he ended up having to be back into a neutral situation. If Dan would have just got the ball back to that length and hadn't recovered, then Mark's got a whole half court to aim at to hit the ball in. Really good recovery from Dan Cox there. Just makes the court smaller. Yeah, really good ball striking. When we talk about the recovery, we see what Dan's so good at is we have this idea, we do this thing called beat the bounce, where the players are going to want to get back into their recovery position before the ball has bounced on the other side of the net. So, and what you see, Dan's so good at it, he hits his ball and he's back in the sort of middle of the court or where he wants to recover to before his shot has landed on the other side. It just makes it so difficult to get the ball past him.
He's not the tallest, but there's another ace. 5'7" tall, Dan Cox, but perfect placement.
Big serving, big serving.
Big serving, back-to-back aces for Cox, and he will have the advantage in this second set, a set that he must win. It is on serve early stages, 2-1. UK Pro League Week 2 as the semi-finals. We know that awaiting the winner of this semi-final will be Anton Matusevich, the highest ranked player in the men's draw, closely followed by Mark Whitehouse in terms of ranking. Matusevich is yet to drop a set this week, finished third in week 1, and he's definitely going to go at least one better than that in week 2. Who will be joining him? Emily Appleton came through the loss of just 2 games against Alice Gillen, and following this we'll have Beth Gray against Elise Maloney. And they're playing as well as for points, 18 points for the winner. Remember, this is a league that will run for 8 weeks and then finals week in November, but also for money that is very important for these tennis players who are individual contractors. They haven't played a lot. Due to restrictions and to COVID, there haven't been tournaments, and now players are finding it hard to get into tournaments because there's so many players trying to play any tournament that exists. It makes it so much harder. So this is a wonderful opportunity for match play and also to make some money.
Yeah, for these British guys, they really struggle to get in anywhere because, for one, there's not many tournaments on. There's less tournaments than there usually would be at this time of year, and we can't go to a lot of the countries as well. And even the ones we can, Even the ones we can, we've got to quarantine when we come back, unless you can get an exemption. I thought that he's in a little bit of trouble now, Mark Whitehouse. The point previous, when he was 15 love up, he was a little bit casual on the short forehand and ended up losing that point. And he's now got himself in a little bit of trouble where he should have been 30 love up, and he's now 15-30 down. And he thinks that serve was out and didn't move for the return. So out of nowhere, Dan Cox with 2 break points. I think we'll see him get pretty fired up if he takes one of these. There's the booming serve again.
I've seen that so often through this match on the big points when he's needed it.
Yeah. And again. I love Dan's disgustedness at when his opponent plays well. He really seems to take offence to it. And I think he's trying to send a message there as well. He's trying to let Mark know that he's playing well above his usual level. And he's lucky to be winning. That's the sort of tone that Dan's looking to send across the other side of the net. Looking to say, you can't play this, you can't keep playing this well. He even hits his slices hard, Mark Whitehouse. Doesn't glide them, he drills them. I've been on court when he's done them and he drills the slice pretty hard. That wide serve is such a good weapon against somebody who's a little bit smaller like Dan. His wingspan is limited, so the serve doesn't have to be quite as accurate as it would be against someone a little bit taller. He's really struggled with the length on his second serve, Mark. Never really looked comfortable on that second serve for the whole match. Just been very good at making first serves. Of course, if the ball's a little bit shorter, it's allowing Dan to really step into the court and get on top of the point.
Third breakpoint opportunity now for Dan Cox. Let's see if once again the Whitehouse serve can come to his rescue.
No.
Oh, nothing from Dan
No.
Cox.
No.
Silent satisfaction.
Yeah. He was probably aware that when he broke in the first set, he got broke back immediately.
I think at the moment the task in hand is finding the balls.
Have we had new balls in this match yet? I'm just trying to work out there. What are we getting new balls here? Is it 11 and 13? Yeah, so these ones will be pretty old.
Well, he's finding the aces in this second set, Dan Cox.
A little bit of sloppiness there, I feel, from Mark in that last service game. He'd been the better player. He was not under a great deal of pressure until that point in this set. Just feels like he's handed Dan one there. Big serving. He's so good at hitting his spots as well, is Dan Cox on the serve. He's very precise with it. Nearly always hits a line.
We saw that at the very first point of the second set.
Yeah. He didn't improve on it much there, did he? It's pretty much the exact same shot. Big turnaround in this match, again out of nowhere.
A little bit of thinking for Mark Whitehouse to do around about now. It's going quickly in the direction of Dan Cox right now.
Tough volley to hit that one. Just sort of not much that Dan could have done with that one. Just a little bit, tiny little bit out of his reach, and he's just sort of brought about by Mark having a little bit of a miss hit, I think, on the first passing shot. A bit disappointed there from 40 love up. He's gone.
Yep, there's the consolidation of the break, and Dan Cox leads by 4 games to 1. Just over an hour and a half played of the third semi-final that we're bringing you today. Still got Beth Gray against Elise Maloney to come, but Mark Whitehouse, who managed to close out a tight first set 7-6. Got a little bit to think about. Down a break to this man here, Dan Cox.
Mark will be looking to keep it tight here. He won't want Dan to run away with it, because I think he'll fancy his chances of getting at least one break back opportunity, a half chance maybe.
Can make
that's
it
huge.
Look so effortless.
Yeah. It's a perfect point, really. He breaks the sideline on the previous shot, pulls Dan out of the court, and then absolutely. And you see, again, Dan's recovery is phenomenal. If you see him there, and he's already back in the middle, he's nearly ended up getting there. The body serve's not so effective against a smaller guy like Dan, because their shots are so compact that you see a couple of times today Mark's tried the body serve and it's come back with interest. It's more useful against the taller guys with a bigger wingspan. Struggle to get their body out of the way. I think the serve might have been out as well. A bit generous on that. Was a chance. He knows it as well. Dan's doing really well at redirecting Mark's shots at the minute, using the pace and sort of acting like a bit of a wall. Mark's having to feel like he's going to have to hit a winner or he's in trouble. Wow. One Martin Del Potro material there from Mark Whitehouse.
I think he's missed it.
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was long, but then Dan's reaction to me looked like he thought that Mark had made it. But yeah, he's missed it by a fair while there. Yeah, definite lull now. Definite drop in standard.
An opportunity for Dan Cox to serve to take us into that deciding champions tiebreak. He's played one this week, won it against Julian Cash on day 4. There was that one that he lost Mark Whitehouse against Jack Fiddle-Hawkins, that match we talked about for Mark Whitehouse on day 3. So a point for a 5-1 second set lead.
There we go.
There it is. Mark Whitehouse really not happy with how this second set has run away from him. And Dan Cox now, a game away from taking us to that deciding tiebreak.
Yeah, you feel like Mark hasn't managed the scoreboard all that too well. It doesn't feel like a 5-1 lead, does it? It feels like there's not much in them, but Dan's got this huge buffer now. We'll be in a tiebreak pretty soon, I'm pretty sure of that. Oh, there we go. He's made one.
That was third time lucky with the drop shot.
I think he probably would have rather made it on the one he missed in the couple of games ago than at 5-1 down, though. The trick with the drop shots that many players make, and a lot of people don't understand, is that you've got to play it like it's a little mini lob, and you're just looking to lob the net. There's very few that... The most drop shot errors come from netting them rather than your opponent getting there. So in order to get the what you need from it, you've got to give it a little bit of height, and you need to kill it. It needs to drop down in a straight line.
It's a great way of looking at it, a mini lob.
Yeah. It's just going to come down. But you've got to imagine how when it comes down as well, it's going to come down in a straight line as opposed to sort of pushing on towards the opponent, which would give them more of a chance of getting it. You saw that one from Mark there. It bounced and almost went sideways. Frustration kicking in now for Mark. He just hit that so hard at him that can't get any sort of control on it. Great point again.
Yeah, an opportunity to get one of these breaks back.
It's a good serve though. Again on the line, he's so precise with those serves. So tough to get back when he just hits the spot so well on them.
A chance to take us the distance in this second semi-final. And on we go in the perfect way to wrap up the set for Dan Cox. He's taking us into deciding champions tiebreak, which will decide who goes through to tomorrow's final. Hello, Dan. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Dan? Hello, hello. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Marvellous. We're just in a break. Is it all right if we come to you with a couple of questions in about 30 seconds?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going the distance in the second men's semi-final. Delighted to say that we're joined now by the winner of set 2, Dan Cox. And Dan, for you, what's been the difference between the turnaround from losing the first set to taking the second?
Not a lot, really. I thought I actually played okay in the first set. I think, you know, on the important points, he kind of played better than me in the first set. That's pretty much what happened. So I just got to try and maintain my level, and hopefully he drops a little bit, which I think he probably did a little bit in the second. So, but it was just a little bit frustrating in the first set. I wasn't able to convert any break points.
Hi Dan, it's Calvin. Is it tough to play against Mark with the way that he plays, where you're not really getting any rhythm a lot of the time, especially on your service games, where sometimes you can go through and he's sort of made 2 balls and then he's hitting 3 aces in his game, that type of thing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, he hits the ball very flat, and yeah, just sometimes it shoots through very quickly, and it's tough to get any rhythm. You know, especially like you say, if he's hits one winner, then sprays one out the back and everything. But yeah, he's very tough opponent to play.
Okay, cheers, man.
Dan, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
So I didn't want to ask this when he still had his headphones on, but where do you see this Champions tiebreak going?
I think Dan, as he said there, he's going to look to do just how he finished that first set, and you know, it's not a negative way to think about it, but he's going to hope to tempt Mark into some shots that he shouldn't really be going for, but at the same time knowing that Mark can make those shots that he shouldn't be. He almost makes what Mark's really good at is making shots off bad decisions, whereas normally you'd think, well, you know, let's try and tempt him into some. Well, he will be thinking, let's tempt him into some bad decisions, and you know, hopefully he misses two or three of those and makes one. But as Dan said, there, it's so difficult when there's no rhythm, and you sort of think you're hitting a good length, and then Mark just screams a winner off it. It's difficult to know where you're at with your own game.
First to 10 points. Win by 2. We'll decide who will face Anton Matusevich tomorrow afternoon. As I said, they both had a first to 10 this week, and in week 2 it was a defeat for Mark Whitehouse and a win for Dan Cox. But this has been so tight between these two despite the disparity in that second set scoreline.
Good ball strike. Rolls reversed a little bit there. It's easy to forget as well because Mark's hitting so many winners, but Dan Cox is a brilliant ball striker. Beautiful timer of the ball.
Minutes shy of 2 hours on court for the second semi-final.
Wow. That's so difficult to do that as well. It's below the height of the net, so he's having to get it up and over the net with power and close enough to the line to be a winner. That's one that I'm talking about there, where I was saying about it's not really a great decision for a shot to make, to go for a winner off that ball, and he just makes them.
Obviously, when he's not happy with himself, he calls himself Daniel.
The full name treatment, yeah. A little bit of tension in the arm there, it looked like. Try to muscle it again a little bit. I think we find that Dan tends to go for a little bit more just after Mark's hit a couple of winners, like almost like that plays on his mind, like he's got to get the first strike in. I don't think either of those shots were bad decisions, though, there from Dan. He'll be just a bit disappointed with the execution on them. Certainly the last one, that was there for hitting.
Oh, who's going to be able to hold their nerve? First to 10. It's advantage to this man in your picture, Mark Whitehouse. Yet to beat Dan Cox, a fifth meeting between the two. Lost to him at the very beginning of week 1 of UK Pro League. But an opportunity here, finished 7th in week 1, Mark Whitehouse. Dan Cox coming in 4th.
Yeah, Dan will be so frustrated at that one. I think he's almost so mad that he can't even comment to himself on it. But the other side of it, good reaction. He knows he can't be wasting points, being frustrated, so he's kept his calm there. He knows there'll be some more ebbs and flows. There won't just be 2 mini breaks in this whole tie break. I'm certain of that.
First to 10, and Mark Whitehouse is halfway there.
I think that Dan will know that stuff like that will happen. That's why he'll not want to be frustrated when he misses those easy balls. The tiebreaks play a sort of strange game on you as well. You think it's shorter than it is, but to get to 10 points, it's still like 2.5 normal games. Wow. Is he okay there? He's fine, yeah. Just a bit worried there. We've had a couple of ankle injuries on this same court, haven't we, in the last couple of weeks? It's always a good tactic as well when you're playing somebody who's really fast to go back behind, because Mark will know that Dan's recovering really well, so he's setting off early to recover, so Mark's gone back behind him to wrong foot him. Again, really strange errors from Dan Cox. You don't really see them. Big point here. Makes a world difference. 8-3 to 7-4 is a real big change. Again, if I'd have told you, Gigi, that one of the players would be hitting 5 unforced errors in the tie-break, I don't think you'd have said it'd be Dan.
No, and is now on the racket of Mark Whitehouse.
Yeah, 2 serves to come, 2 points away from it. That's what you want to see if you're Mark Whitehouse. Huge booming serve out wide. He's very good at that serve again. That's a low percentage serve as well, the flat one out wide on the ad court. But Mark's so good at it. Again, another paradox of the Mark Whitehouse game. He's very good at making shots that percentage-wise you wouldn't expect him to.
Match points now for Mark Whitehouse. The first at this stage will be on his serve.
It's a little bit despondent there, Dan, doesn't he?
There it is. Your winner, Mark Whitehouse, 7th in week 1. He topped box B in week 2, and he's made his way through to the showpiece event, the final of week 2. It is Mark Whitehouse with his first career win over Dan Cox, and with it, he books his place in Sunday's final. Now he can have a smile and a sit down and take it all in.
Yeah, it was quite a change around for Mark in the last week. He sort of started the week, he looked like he was carrying his jet lag on, and I don't think anybody, maybe not even himself, would have thought after day 1 and day 2 that he'd have been in the final tomorrow. But again, it's the way that he plays. He goes against the form book so often that there's no way of sort of telling his form from one match to the next. It'll be an interesting battle tomorrow. There's definitely going to be a lot of big hitting in that match coming up tomorrow. I feel sorry for the tennis balls in that one.
They are going to take a pounding, but it is Mark Whitehouse. He's 27 years of age. He's the British number 18, so if we're looking purely at rankings and positioning, we have the top 2 British players at the event through to the final.
Yeah, it's difficult to go on rankings as well. I think especially after the last year, nobody really knows where they are on rankings. So, Mark's dropped about 100 spots, but again, it's difficult to tell with Mark's ranking because, like I said, he wins most of he gets his ranking points through winning events, not through sort of consistent form throughout the year. So, and Anton hasn't really played a full schedule in the last year anyway, so I wouldn't read too much into that. I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a really interesting match, that one. Who can blast the other one away, because it definitely won't be a match of caressing and touching the ball, that's for sure. There won't be much serve, volley and drop shots in that one.
Well, frustration for Dan Cox, who once again is into the 3rd placed playoff. Mentioned he finished 4th in week 1, so we're looking to improve on that and go 1 better in his match tomorrow. But one more match for this young man to play. Mentioned his ranking of 628, but as Calvin said, it's so difficult really to look at rankings. He is the British number 18. It's nice he's got a smile on his face now because the hard work for today has been done. He can smile, he can relax, he can reflect, and he's speaking now courtside with Jenny.
Mark, congratulations. I'm not surprised you're smiling from ear to ear right now. You are in the final of week 2 of the UK Pro League. How does that sound to you right now?
Sounds pretty good.
What do you make of that match? I mean, it was incredible. It was extremely topsy-turvy indeed and went down to the wire. What was your assessment?
Yeah, I thought it was close throughout. I know the second set looks a bit one-sided, but I felt like the games were still really close. But in the first set, they were going like each of our ways, and in the second set, they sort of all went his way. But I tried really hard to put it behind me quickly because the match tie break doesn't last very long, so you have to.
Do you think you therefore won the mental battle there? It all went down to the mental side rather than the tennis, given the fact that it did go down to the championship tie break?
I don't know. I thought he was pretty good mentally too. I think the match tie breaks are a bit of a lottery, and he made a couple of mistakes which, if we played it again, he might not make, or I might hit different shots. And yeah, lucky today it went my way.
Well, it's the first time you've actually beaten him in your career.
Yeah.
It was your 5th meeting. All 4 times Dan has come out on top. Is it extra special given that it's a semi-final?
Yeah, I saved my 1 win just for the semi-final.
Your timing is impeccable. But, Mark, you've got 1 more match tomorrow. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, Calvin was saying in commentary, they feel sorry for the tennis balls between you and Anton. They're going to get absolutely powered down. What do you make of that encounter?
Yeah, I think we both like to hit the ball pretty big, and we're going to try and take the felt off the ball, I think.
I'm sure you are indeed. We're very much looking forward to that. Well done today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Calvin, come in and join me here because, my goodness, what an exciting semi-final battle between these guys. Our first 3-set match of the day. It was a topsy-turvy match, as yourself and Gigi said in commentary. What did you make of how Mark got the better of Dan there?
Yeah, it was a phenomenal match. Some of the ball striking was remarkable. Mark's hit he can't have played much better tennis this year, I don't think, than that. And, he's tough to sort of... I don't see where what Dan makes of that match, because he sort of come out in the tie-break. He must have been feeling pretty good about he's just won the second set 6-1, the momentum's with him, and then Mark's coming out and just blown him away in sort of about 6 or 7 minutes, I think.
But do you think it's even more impressive given maybe Mark's performance in week 1 coming 7th? You know, he's the second highest ranked player in the draw. He was probably a little bit disappointed with that effort in week 1, and then now week 2 he's in the final.
Yeah, I think it was tough to get much of a reading on the first weeks. I think Mark had just come back from America. I think he only landed in the country about 36 hours before his first match, so there was a jet lag element of it, and he was a little bit off his form and that kind of thing, so I didn't read too much into that first week. But he didn't start this week too great either. He was a bit rusty on the first couple of days, and then he had the match against Findle Hawkins where he was by far the better player, and then Jack came and just sort of took him away with 15 minutes at the end, with which how Findle Hawkins can play. But you know, he warrants his place in the final. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. There's going to be some huge ball striking in that.
Yeah, you said that in commentary, Calvin.
Yeah.
We're very much looking forward to that match. That is, of course, coming up tomorrow. But we still have one match left for you today. We know 3 of the finalists. We still need to decide the 4th. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right after the break.